Hello and welcome to another K6 Office Hours. I'm Nicole van der Hoeven, and today I have a new colleague of mine, Leandro.
Woohoo!
Preséntate.
Hello. Um, yeah, I am, for the ones that do not know, Leandro Melendez, also known in the internet as Señor Performo, the newest member of the K6 family. No, there are some others that I cannot claim that anymore. Okay, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean. Uh,
we
um,
move quickly.
yeah, I arrived recently. I think that's more accurate to say. And yeah, very happy to be here, helping, generating more content, generating more things, helping everyone in the communities to get on track or faster into their performance knowledge and endeavors. And very happy and excited to be here.
Hello, Mark Tomlinson is saying hi to us from chat. We are very happy to be together. Leandra and I have known each other for a while. We met in Vienna 4 or 5 years ago, and we have been trying to work together for some time now, and have worked together a little bit here and there at
Mhm.
K6 as well. And yes, Mark is also saying that the purple looks good. I feel like I should have been more K6y or something because you're oozing it.
Oh my
Lighting
God.
and your shirt and everything.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
but
glowing a
I'm
little bit.
wearing a Grafana shirt.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
It's
mean, we,
a
we have
Grafana
different
hackathon shirt.
combinations that we can do now. I think I should have gotten one of those like orange-ish, Grafana style.
Yeah,
um,
we'll make it so that it's like monochromatic from yours to mine next time.
oh, okay, deal. Let's give it a
All
try.
these things that we can do together now. We're super excited. That's all we've been saying for the last few days. Carlos
Just
dice, hello from Argentina. Here, a fan of Señor Performo. Muy
hey.
bien. Hola, Carlos. Saludos.
Oh yeah,
And someone, Eric sorry. Okay, Eric
Nikki.
Nikitin. Nikitin. Eric Nikitin. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I don't know who you are, but hello. Hello, Carlos. Hello, Frank. Okay, let's get
Frank.
started. Leandro, who
Oh
are
yeah,
you? Where did you come from? What do you
I'm
do?
Batman. No, I'm kidding. Um, uh, well, a little bit of background on me. I was born and raised in Mexico City, and funny enough, didn't get out of there. Like, long story short, I could travel a little to the US when I was very, very young. I remember as a kid learning milkshake is like milk that you shake, like thinking that in Spanish when I was starting to learn English. But stuff happened in Mexico and we couldn't travel anymore. There was a crisis and I got stuck there. Not stuck, but didn't seem to want to travel much until, or can travel much until I was about 26, 27. And then um, a change happened in my work, and I started to be able to come here into the United States and work with some customers on this side of the border. And well, before that, on my time in Mexico, IT bachelor's, some majors in distributed systems, and right away I went into a developing world. I started to program on those old days where we were doing ASP.3.0 web pages. I mean, I so long ago, but that's where I started, and then I started a jump. I wanted to learn more because we all know the IT world is huge, and I started to jump jobs. I mean, at the very beginning, I wouldn't be more than 6 months in one, and then database person, junior intern, something. I got into that. Was learning database, then something on networking, then something on infrastructure, analyst, and started to jump trades, trying to learn them. It's awesome. I personal recommendation for anyone starting. Take advantage when you don't need the money that much and you are being paid to learn. that's huge because you can mess up a little bit. You are the junior, you don't know much, and but you start to learn different traits, different pieces of knowledge that I think ended up helping me a bit on these things that I have been doing afterwards.
Leandro, we have two comments here for you. One is from Fernando Jose Arupe. Hello from Argentina too. I saw a lot of
Oh,
videos of you. Hola.
awesome. Hola, Fernando.
And also, Mark has a question for you. Are there any deadly sins that you can do as a performance test engineer that are really not recommended? Something that really works against your efforts? That's a good
Oh,
question.
yeah. Should we tackle it? It's a lengthy
Yeah,
one.
let's do it.
I mean, I can right away. It came to me. Some of the first ones that I started. One of the first things that you may do as a performance engineer tester or in the performance world is as a scripter. And that's how I started. And a deadly sin that I used to do on those early days, and it took me a few years to get off of that bad habit. Kind of record and replay. And when you are trying to work through your correlations, I didn't have a method, I didn't have a way to do it. And I was just going through my script and like, oh, it breaks here, and trying to figure out why it broken and hit run again and see up till when I would find an error, which eventually I could produce some scripts, but they tended to be unstable and come to this situation that I heard a lot before. Oh, it's common that your scenario has like a 20-30% of errors, like there are fails and mistakes here and there. I'm like, on those days, I was like, yeah, it is what it is. That's how things work. And then I learned, like, oh, I have some best practices to script now, where you don't go blindly checking where it breaks. No, you know what exact things you need to correlate, parameterize, what to do. And even on some customers will tell me that story, like, no, it's okay, yeah, that you get some percentages of errors just from the scripts. And I was like, mine are bulletproof. Mine zero from the scripts.
Wow. Yeah, that's the ideal, right? None of it should be a cause caused by your test or the situations that you're testing in. One
Mhm.
thing that I can think of that is a deadly sin for me that I've done as well is focusing too much on the technical parts and not on the human parts. Because there is a tendency, if you're really into it and you're tuning things left and right and you've got it humming along nicely, broaden your perspective a bit and think about the human parts, because it's not just the computer parts that sometimes have issues. Sometimes there are human problems that maybe you need to address. Now, is that our job as a performance tester? Maybe when you look at a job description, no, but it does affect your job. And if you care about the overall quality of an application, then it's definitely something to think about.
I think that is something like happens nowadays with agile teams, that they get so much into agile for the sake of agile. No, the stand up and the burnout, and we have to optimize this. Why are you optimizing it? It's like you need to present something to your customers, see what they really want, not to be so focused on your agile process. Yes, it's important, but you are doing all that for your customer to provide a good software. So I think it goes in
Yeah.
line. It's
Have you ever heard of productivity porn?
oh, what?
So I am very into productivity. I love like reading about different methodologies for doing something well and efficiently. I mean, I guess that's just like the performance tester in me trying to optimize all of my life. But there is a certain point when you get caught up in which methodology you're using that you get so caught up in the methodology and not so much in, actually getting work done. And so I think that there's something like that I would call like performance porn, where it's all about speed, responsiveness. And it's like, well, wait a minute, that's not all it's about. And sometimes you need to stop and say, we don't need to go any faster. We're spending too much time and resources on something.
I think, and in that line on the not productivity, I'm gonna call it now process porn. Now that I know the term, I'm gonna stretch it a little bit. But yeah, I have seen that on the performance side, where organizations will get you attached to some, no, this is the way you have to automate all these processes, and this is, no, wait, you have an issue here. Or even some of the best practices that are evolving nowadays is because you are more flexible, you are not so strict about that process, that productivity. You're trying to do the best, even if especially because you don't want to be so productive that you have to stay at the Friday end of the sprint until midnight trying to um, close up everything. I mean, you have to respect your bandwidth, your capacity, and not to be so tight about it, right? uh,
Yeah.
I thought
So
of one last watch,
go
huge
on.
scene, quick and easy. Trying to do functional test cases or steps on a load automation script. That also was a big scene that I've seen still nowadays. And please be careful.
Yeah, they're definitely two slightly different approaches. Although I may be talking about that actually, hey, maybe this is a good time to plug it. Leandro and I are both going to be speaking at Automation Guild. And Leandro, we have some explaining to do because I'm actually talking about browser automation and load testing in a single script,
Yeah, that didn't sound
but
suspicious at all to me.
responsibly. What are you talking about?
So I'm going to be talking about speed testing your automations. This applies a little bit to QA automations in general, but performance as well. You need your automations to be fast and integrate into your continuous pipeline platform. And so I'm going to give some recommendations on how to assure that they are fast, that they are modular, that they won't stop your sprint from flowing. And yeah, the developers doing some automation in terms of performance or some others, it's a crucial part of it. I mean, this all happened before this and that I'm here, but I do agree. I do agree with those principles.
Thank you to Mark who typed in the URL for the Automation Guild conference before I could. Now I can just highlight it instead of doing it myself. So, Leandro, I have a question for you. What made you decide to join K6 for real? Was it me?
Oh yeah, you totally told me, come, we have cookies. No, I'm kidding. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are cookies in the offices, but well, this is a long story, and as you mentioned, it goes back to those days when we met in Vienna, in those conferences. That on my side, it's funny that you bring it up because I was just starting this Señor Performo persona. I was just starting to go out into the world and see what can I present. How is this knowledge sharing universe just, it's like a different world from when you are in just delivery as a consultant and helping uh, people in no organizations providing the services. So
It
I
was
met,
before Perf Bites Espanol, right? I think that's why you spoke to me because you wanted to interview me for Perf Bites Espanol.
yeah, I was just about to launch it. I mean, that
That's
didn't
right.
happen yet. I already, Mark, that is here watching at us, gave me, pinged me like, hey, would you like to do this in Spanish? You speak Spanish. It would be good to share the knowledge there. I'm like, was like, F yeah. And I was starting to put together, understand. I remember I bought this little guy that was my battle horse for a little bit on recording and learning sound engineering, and also with the conference side and meeting people, meeting who was trying to do the same or were in similar paths. So, and it was also new. So, for even being at conferences, I'm sad to say I didn't attend that many prior to this wish of improving and getting more knowledge out there. So it was awesome. I met you, and I started to get a feeling on all of that. But I think a year would pass. I kept improving. I started to do the podcast. I learned so many things. And I think it was a couple of years or more later I kept writing my blog. I kept publishing now this somewhat consistent podcast, and going to conferences. I started to like this and present and ridicule myself and dance on stage, trying to make people understand complex topics. And then I got a ping from Pepe, our friend here at K6, that told me, "Hey, you seem to be good at sharing knowledge, and I've read some of the things. What do you think? Why don't we talk about this?" And at that moment, I had to say, I was like, I'm just starting at this. How is that people are calling me to do this, quote unquote, professionally, right? And I was like, I had financial responsibilities. I had a stable, a steady job, and not that I thought that Pepe was like a scammer and was like, yeah, I'm
He
gonna get
totally
you
is.
into dirty businesses, this Devrel thing. No, but it was more that I don't felt there yet. But I was like, well, we can start talking. And at that time also, I was like, hey, but would you like to talk in Perfights? So it was a serendipitous moment because again, I was flying back to Vienna where we met, but to the same conference. And on those days, I checked, hey, it's a short flight to Stockholm. Let's go and meet Pepe. So we started to talk. I think I liked him. I hope we liked each other, that it was mutual. Sounds
You
like it
have
was.
to
I
say
mean,
that
I'm
now,
here.
though, because he's our manager.
Yeah, it's not that I'm obligated. No, no. I enjoyed not only meeting him, knowing the city, wandering around, meeting Robin, and interviewing him in Spanish. Sadly, I would have loved to interview Robin, but I think his Spanish may not be there. Um, so, but everything started, and I started to help however I could without getting into trouble at my job on those days. And we started somewhat friendship, but that was it. We would collaborate similar to like you and I, like, hey, there's an opportunity, would you like yeah, sure. I'm always game to generate more content, help wherever I can, or whatever can be done. And the time would advance after those meetings, or meeting you, meeting Pepe. And I started to hear, while I was doing some conferences, presentations, or going around communities in Mexico, Latin America, that K6 started to have more resonance. More people started to, yeah, I'm using K6, and oh, okay, that's better. It's starting to get more traction. I would tell Pepe there was some documentation that needed. Then we started to do some of the videos, some of the content. And that was one part where I think the pandemic was a bad thing for mostly a bad thing, but to me, it gave an opportunity. I mean, we had to get new hobbies, new things, and it's not that, oh, damn, this pandemic, now I have to figure out what to do. I already had the itch. I already wanted to improve what I was creating, make it funnier, more engaging. The video content was always something that I had. I'm a movie buff, and I one day I hope to direct something. Mm, not a Marvel movie. Oh man, that would be awesome, right? But whatever. I like that world. So I always wanted, like, hey, let's see. Let's start learning. Let's see what I can do, what I can produce. I learned how to do sometimes the floating GIFs that you may have seen on some of my videos. And I started to feel more like I started to understand, not good or like an expert. Still nowadays, I think I have lots to learn and more to grow, hopefully. And every time that I produce a new video, a new content, write something new, a blog or a conference, I grow a little bit, and hopefully things get better. And I hope now it's gonna be even faster. But that was one element, right? I started to feel more confident about what was I doing, that I could do it. Because on one hand, it's like, oh, what if I get sick of it and I hate it and then I cannot do it? And I don't want this to be a struggle or a hassle, an anchor for myself. When I found that I enjoyed it and how much I enjoyed it, I was like, wow, this is awesome. Yeah, I could I could do this. I mean, when I think it was Steve Jobs that said that the job that you have, if you wouldn't do it for free, quit right away. And I was even paying to do something like that at times. So when I had that opportunity, and I was like, oh, I should have taken it. Okay, well, at
I
least,
totally get that because I think that's something that's a similarity that we have, right? That we were already, both of us, even though we were doing different jobs, we were already trying to create content about performance testing best practices and trying to share what we knew even before that was our job. So I'm also super grateful that it is now our job to do that. Like, we don't have to do it on the side. You know, we don't have to pay for equipment out of our own pockets. Like, it is, I'm so grateful that we get to do that. And I'm glad that excitement rubbed off on you a little bit because obviously it worked and you're here.
it's yeah, it's a huge opportunity. And I'm not saying that I hated my job before and I couldn't wait to get out of the rat race. I mean, no pun intended. It was a kind of a Stockholm syndrome. I'm in love with scripting. Doing performance testing is something that I enjoy, even nowadays. I can say, but this is very interesting. What would you prefer? Do a script automation or shoot a video? Um, I've eaten a lot of that dessert. Let me try a little bit more of this one and develop my taste. I don't know, um, but I have to say, before the opportunity came as well, the news popped up about Grafana and K6. That was another key element for me to deciding here. I have to admit, K6, as I said, I started to hear the echo chamber. I started to help. I'm looking for my swag to come as well.
Yeah,
um,
there's a lot.
oh, wow.
It's
Can't
funny
wait.
because like I look at my wardrobe and my things and it's like everything has a sun on it or like crocodiles. I don't have to buy clothes anymore. It's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, we don't need that either anymore.
James is a regular and he's saying that seeing the culture shift via K6 has been very rewarding.
Yeah,
I
it's
know. Well, let's talk about the culture a little bit because I know that that's something that's different for you, right? You are still getting used to.
yeah, absolutely. I um I can say, and the jumping culture, I have already experienced this shift or impact, cultural impact. It already happened when I started to work for companies in the US, coming from companies in Mexico. There are several differences on how things are done, the philosophies. Um, People, just not work culture, but people culture is somewhat different. And now I'm feeling also that transition where the way in which, on one hand, K6 and Grafana do things. And I think it has to do a little bit with the Swedish roots that both have, where, yeah, the people work differently, have a different mindset or perspective. I have to admit, in the US and in Mexico, which is one of the countries where people work the most hours per week in the world, ironically, not representative in terms of productivity, but more hours of a job in Mexico. We have one of the first places, sadly. And in the US, I feel that there's this feeling of super employee that, yeah, you are on all the meetings, you deliver, and on top of that, you go to the gym and CrossFit, and then have a second passion and excel culture, I would say, that you have to outshine your next employer. And uh, uh, I cannot say that I was getting that a lot, but in where I was working before, like there wasn't that much of a pressure or that, but you can tell it's a different mindset, country-wise, in a way. And now here is more an ambient and mindset that I can feel of collaboration, uh, partnership. We are, gracias, Fernando. um, that we we are kind of playing with each other. There are some things that also I was a little bit impressed when asking for some of my first duties. What should I work on? What should I start? One of the questions that came right after is like, what do you enjoy the most? What gives you the most excitement? What? And yeah, what you mentioned, there are the conferences, you mentioned that there's the content. Do you like writing blogs? Do you like programming? Which areas do you feel you would be happier on? I think blah blah and blah. Okay, do those and avoid the others, please. We want you to be the happiest, more excited about what you're doing. And I was like, I was like, aren't you gonna bring up the whip and start telling me you must do this, crouch, roach? No, and when you think about it, it's the best because you'll be the most productive if you are doing whatever gives you the most joy. There's this guy I have read a lot about, Warren Buffett, that says that he every morning goes taps dancing into the office because he's so excited, and I feel a lot like that right now. That I used to wake up early. Now I wake up earlier because I'm so excited about what I can do during the day with the things that I'm planning to do. It's a huge switch of perspective, I have to admit.
It's kind of sad that's what most people feel. It looks like James can sympathize with your confusion. Imagine a company that actually asks what you want to do, what areas you want to explore. I've definitely drunk the Kool-Aid here, but it's been a year and I'm not seeing flaws, or at
Mhm.
least not ones that are serious cracks in the foundation. So, what do
It
you think about K6 and Grafana as the services, as the products? Because I think you were already sort of familiar with K6. So you had already done some videos for K6. Actually, you did the SLO ones, right? What do you
mhm.
think about its place in the market?
So and that's what I was getting at with Grafana and K6 joining forces, where previously I think like 3 or 4 years ago I stumbled into Grafana, this tutorial how to integrate it with your load tests so that you can share and in a live manner see how your load tests are doing. I was like, oh, okay, I could connect this with the database where I'm storing the results. Now I see the graphs. So this is pretty cool. So I started to extend and I started to implement it into even silly things at home. To I had that experiment of using RFID on my fridge so that I have a Grafana chart that tells me you need more milk, or somewhat a smart fridge. And I could see like the possibilities for Grafana are huge. And then how it connects with load testing, observability, instrumentation, monitoring, and with the script and automations for synthetics and load tests. I was like, when they got together, I was excited. I saw the possibilities. I mean, um, they integrate so well, and I right away I was like, lots of awesome things are going to come out of that. K6 keeps improving, more features are being added, it's growing, and it's actively being worked on. And on the other hand, Grafana as well, they are adding now Loki and the extra functionalities, plugins, and the communities are active on both sides. So um, I think that's also part of what excited me. I saw that lots of good things would come out of that I know synergy is an overused buzzword, but that's the only good word that I can think to describe it.
What I really like that's come out of the acquisition is that decisions have been made on both sides that have made it really clear that both K6 and Grafana have this mentality of a rising tide lifting all boats. And it's not about putting anybody else down or like now we're acquired by Grafana so we can never talk about New Relic or Kibana or whatever. No, in fact that's still encouraged. I've made a video about how to integrate K6 with New Relic. I mean, why wouldn't you? New Relic is an awesome APM. Like we should try to be as composable and usable with anything out there, all the best tools. And there hasn't been any pushback on Grafana's side at all. And the same is true for Grafana. I'm sure there are lots of people who use Grafana, but they don't use K6. Totally fine. No one's going
Hmm.
to lock anybody in. Still open source. I love that.
No, and it's something that I also appreciate. I first noticed it with Grafana, right? Hey, I connect with everything. Anil, thank you very much. um, I can connect it with almost anything that I can think of. And the same for K6, the same openness, the promiscuity in between solutions and connectivity that you can have. It's awesome because some of the old tools that I used to have to use, you were, I think at the beginning, it's not so much like that anymore. But you and I talked that I used to be an I hater. Apple products, I had lots of issues with them because it was a closed environment and ecosystem at a point that it was very difficult to, how can I get out of iTunes my music? I want to hear it in something that is not an iPod. At a time, I had some issues, and I experienced something like that with some of the old tools for automation, for quality assurance, for processes uh, to verify your software. And nowadays, I love these solutions that give you all the freedom. Yeah, connect it. And it's a big recommendation that I keep doing. There's no single tool for everything in QA and vice versa in observability, in monitoring. You should have what fits you and what is best for you, and not to have only one tool. I always do this joke about Batman. He didn't have only a single tool in his belt. He had as many as he needed because you would have a different need at different situations, and you would have to even carry around a shark repellent that is super famous that you can get rid of them if you are in a situation of need. So yeah, I totally agree on there.
Mark Tomlinson says that for his free tooling setup, he's been successful with his homegrown JMeter Telegraph, InfluxDB, and Grafana framework. Yeah, whatever works. That's the best part about open source. It's not open source if it's restrictive.
Mhm.
I think it goes against the whole philosophy, which I totally love. And he says that he is using the Grafana beta data source for InfluxDB v2. Okay, awesome. Good to know. Yeah, I think that it's actually kind of the opposite that we as performance testing advocates, whatever the right term for our job description is, I think we are encouraged to go out there and try all the performance testing tools because anything that we pick up from other tools and can bring back and say to the rest of the K6 team, like, hey, we should really have this awesome feature, that's only to the benefit of K6 and to the performance testing industry as a whole.
Yeah, and it's something that with the community being active and we working on it and having this capacity of the communication was one of my first requests when I came in. Like, can we see what is the community talking about, asking for? And of course, I mean, the K6 team is already working in that way. But I wanted to see what are the priorities of the people, what is that they need to be able to do with the tool. Some of the browser-based testing capabilities that came not long ago, I thought that's an awesome feature. It's like a, a lightsaber. no, no, a futuristic blade, let's say, to not to get into legal issues. No, but it's an awesome tool that you can use in different circumstances. But if you're not careful, you can cut your hand off or have some issues. Where can we use it? For what? How can it be improved? And I saw Mark's comment.
Yeah, I couldn't help but laugh too.
No, 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 no.
Load test. Okay, we need like some sort of jingle or
Let's work
something.
on that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, all right, all
yeah.
right. But now it's trademarked by him.
No, but we are totally gonna get something like that. No, I'm not gonna be able to get that out of my head now. Yeah, we need something as sticky as what we were saying, baby shark. Everyone, get your baby shark on your mind right
No, 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 no. Stop. Stop there.
now. No, but going back to that, the way that you pay attention to the community and truly provide what they need and the flexibility, like, hey, do you need it? We don't have time. Go and do it, please. It's open source. It's submit to the branch, put some of those things together. It's an also an awesome part of. It's not just the K6 community, but it becomes like a worldwide community. It's beautiful. Oh, amigo Scott.
We were just talking about him before the stream.
Oh yeah. Oh, good things.
He's
Only
got
good things.
a yeah, he's got an awesome series called the Performance Tour. Go look it
Mhm.
up on YouTube. It's awesome. It is performance testing and barbecue hunting.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yesterday I
Um,
thought of him. I had an awesome barbecue here at Texas, but food for
yeah,
future shows, pun intended.
for sure. So, I would also like to talk about your book. Plug
Oh,
it, please.
well, the hitchhiking guide for load testing projects, a fun walkthrough, step-by-step guide that will give you some insight into what are the best practices on a traditional here. Traditional. If I had my Echo machine here, I would try to do that. Traditional. It's waterfall style. Most load testing projects. The other day I was talking with Brian Wilson, and he did an awesome acronym that I think I'm gonna own it. The BALT, BALT, big ass load tests, where you are doing the capacity planning, almost pushing the systems to check for bottlenecks and limits. Those most of the time have to be done in a waterfall way. So in the book, I guide you through these steps on how can you achieve them in a traditional problem. Hey, what are you saying, Mark? Don't make fun of this growing, no, not growing situation. um, the so the book is divided into the 5 stages for a traditional load test project, which also go with the traditional stages for a waterfall test. When you get in there, start to discover and analyze what is needed. Once you have all the information, you start to design it and put together a plan. Once you have the plan in place, you start to build in the next phase, put the pieces, in this case, scripting, creating scenarios, recording, gathering data. Then on the next phase, you execute, you do the thing that you were working on. And in the end, you have like an analysis phase, a CSI phase where, oh, awesome.
Yeah,
where with a cool cover. Yeah, because that's another one that I've gotten questions of. That also is a journey, those projects. And the way that I wanted to describe it, making reference to the hiking hikers, the guide to the galaxy, um, was it's like a quest, a person that goes into an adventure, going and trying to save a princess or um, find yourself or defeat the dark side or things like that. That felt to me every time that I jump into a project, and I wanted to describe it in a similar way, but also following up with lots of examples. You know, I tend to do lots of silly analogies to help people understand. So this book follows those principles of making it as easy and digestible so that everyone can get a grip on it.
Yeah, I also like, I think it's page 6, where this person named Nicole van der Hoeven says how awesome a book this is.
Yeah, you were a few of the ones that had an early insight into it and gave me a good feedback and worthy of being added there. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate that.
Let's talk about your next book, if it's not too much of a secret.
No, I'm being kind of public with that. I'm right now working on part two, where yeah, this first book was oriented mostly at waterfall and traditional projects, which I doubted on publishing after several years of working on it. Was the thing when I started to work on my first book, but I decided it's important that people understand these topics, these it's knowledge, and those projects are still happening, and lots of people will get a benefit of that. But nowadays we have agile projects. The game changes considerably the way how you have to think, do things, proceed, the best practices when you are dealing in an agile project. Um, the performance becomes more than load testing, and testing per se is more on a quality or performance assurance perspective, where at every step, every day, every minute, every breath you take in the project, every breath you take. Oh, that's it.
Oh
You
no,
need
now we can't use this video.
um, that you are thinking, hey, that's parody. I think it's allowed. But you need to be thinking about performance at every step on the project. Everyone, not it's not doesn't have to be the only thing that you think of, but has to be in your mind. So I'm trying to land all that information, all those best practices, all those processes in a new book. I kind of want to follow uh, the Douglas Adams reference that I did with the first book. So it's going to be Thank You for the Agile Fish, something like that. The title is a work in progress.
Oh, I thought
But
it was going to be something along the Ready Player 1, Ready Player 2 lines.
I'm tempted. I'm playing with some of the titles, but and thinking ahead, and some of the plans that I have for hopefully not too far future is to make it a trilogy. So I'm also thinking like probably observability at the end of the universe or something like that, following the lines. You can see what I'm thinking of writing about on the third book, and even parodying a little bit the Phoenix and Unicorn projects. I would like to write a novel describing how is this a jump from a traditional project or a traditional way of doing things around performance assurance, and jumping, and how teams I have observed it, I have seen, I can just paraphrase what I've seen in with some the projects that were successful implementing some of these things. So oh yeah, the towel, very important. And always bring it. I already packed it, but I had one here, I swear. um,
I think that's a really that's something that somebody needs to have a book on, because I think there's also a lot of talk about the differences, like what Agile has brought to performance testing projects or how it has changed them, but also I would like to see something about how that has changed the nature of our jobs, the scope of our jobs, like how performance testing is now perceived. Because one of the main principles of Agile is that of cross functional teams. And that's not where we came from. And I think you and I have similar backgrounds where there were lots of performance testing center of excellence and those things. How do you make those agile? Can they be made agile?
yeah, there's that's another rabbit hole that I could get in and talk a lot into, and I have just gotten in trouble and make some people gasp when I say it. But one of the things, and has nothing to do with K6. I was already preaching that, and it's one of the other details why I think K6 aligns where on where the world should be going. But my personal opinion, or how I see, is that performance testers should stop scripting completely, or doing it so much. It's something that the handover from developers and back and forth, and there's lots of time wasted in that handover, that the sprint by sprint we cannot keep up. And again, I did a joke earlier of us being on a Friday night as busy as possible, trying to complete all of our executions at the end of the sprint, because the developers just gave us this. Would be like a cook in a kitchen preparing a new soup that was requested on order. Hey, can you prepare me I don't know, hot and sour soup? Oh, okay, let me see. If the cook waited until the customer, or let's say the waiter tasted it and say, "Oh, it's okay. It tastes more or less like a hot and sour soup, tom yum, that it's kind of interesting to prepare." And then, okay, you need more salt, you need more vinegar. Okay, it's already on the dish. I need to put it back in the pot and prepare again. And all the time wasted back and forth would be super long for the customer that is sitting there waiting. I'm hungry. I want my soup. So what is the process? Well, the cook here and there gets a spoon, puts on the hand. Okay, I need more salt. Tests it there and then, even with automations that should be done. So, and most of us, like, hey, my job is at a decent percentage to automate. What am I going to do now if you're telling me I shouldn't be automating that much anymore? Like, you can be a performance ambassador or evangelist with the teams, like telling them, hey, you need to integrate this with your Jenkins. You need to create your tasks with a performance requirement to be marked as done, that they have unit testing, that they are measured, that there's observability, that there's a paired up script with it quickly. Again, and that's another topic, the automation pyramid, where you are creating them not anymore in the front end or end-to-end tier, but more at the bottom levels. That those are faster. And also, programs and systems nowadays are evolving at a point where everything is service and microservice nowadays. So stop wasting time at the top tier of I call it the sacrifice Aztec pyramid. You're doing sacrifices up there. Keep it easy, and do it at the mid levels where there are no sacrifices, no problems. So I think that's where we are moving to, more like an advisor giving knowledge and helping. I think you still need like a test center of not excellent of knowledge or guidelines or principles, so that these can be distributed to the teams in your organizations. But again, that's a huge rabbit hole that we could be talking for hours around.
Yeah, I totally agree. And along with maybe letting go some responsibilities that were previously thought of, it's almost like we treat it as if we have a monopoly on load testing. Like only we can do the testing, which is ridiculous because everybody can and should be doing it and thinking about it. And there are many different ways to test as well. It's not just writing or executing a load test. It could be questioning requirements. Static testing is a thing as well, exploratory testing. But also, I think one of the most interesting things that Agile has brought to performance is that as performance testers, we're also being exposed to other functions, and there's a lot that we could learn from software engineers that are outside of testing. So we could be learning more about site reliability engineering. Why can't testers learn about Kubernetes? Because it's so awesome to be able to spin up your own environment without needing anybody to do it for you. It's awesome for being able to reproduce defects because you can send developers the exact configuration files that you use to spot a defect. Like there's a lot of synergy there that now we can really explore. I actually like it. The lines are blurring and I love it. The more multidisciplinary our job gets, the better.
There's a little bit of pushback to becoming multidisciplinary. This changing your hat, or the T-shaped people, E-shaped people, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's what's wrong in that? Keep learning, keep growing. If you have someone to help you, uh, uh, increase learn development, learn about database, learn about these other areas, evolve from just being a scripter. And because, as you mentioned, if you keep the monopoly, if you keep being the only source for this type of tasks, pun intended, you'll become the bottleneck. So
That's also something that James said here. Honestly, to call yourself a performance engineer, you need to cross those lines. I totally agree. I think that not every tester has to learn to develop or has to learn about DevOps, but certainly the best ones do. I don't think you have to become, you don't have to completely jump ship, but it is so useful to have that grounding, to have that experience when you're looking for defects as well.
yeah, and here is an intersection where I have heard from QA people always like, oh yeah, but the developers need to be controlled. They don't know what things to pay attention in terms of quality, which may be true at times, and vice versa. We are the experts in QA. We know about this negative testing, checking for fields, not allowing emojis here and there, SQL injections, all those principles that we are the ones that are used to dealing with. And vice versa. At times, when a developer comes up like, yeah, we have a memory allocation problem here. We need a new, the good old malloc. I remember that command, where at times when a tester gets that information, is like blue screened, like what? Sorry. So what we can do, instead of becoming the owner of the knowledge, the threshold, again, or the bottleneck, you can teach the developers how, what they should be paying attention on, or what risk areas are there, and become more like a chef for the cook that is preparing. Give some guidance. The chef is not there getting so much the hands dirty. It's like, yeah, you need more salt, and probably you need to cook that a little. I don't know, some of those guidelines that we can give in advance, instead of after the fact, after mistakes have been done, after problems have been committed, which is, we know, more expensive, slower, and tears and blood everywhere, and we don't want that anymore. So it's important that we grow, we start to learn from the dev side, infrastructure, even admin tasks. It's good for everyone to start to learn some management, or I don't know, product owner tasks, or I don't know, finances. Get out of the box, and vice versa. Invite people in our teams to get some of our knowledge and start to implement it, and at times even force it, make it mandatory as part of your checking process. I don't know.
And it's also not always just about us teaching developers. There's a lot we could learn from developers as well. For example, I know when I started to learn how to script load testing scripts, I wasn't taught in the way I wasn't taught to do it in the way that developers do now. I didn't think of it as code. I didn't iterate on it the way that developers do. I didn't have these processes of peer review and pair programming. But all of those are useful because test code is also code. So why shouldn't it be kept in a repository where it's also version controlled? Why shouldn't it be in the same repositories that your application code is kept? It just makes sense. There's a lot of things that we could learn from
Yeah,
what they've already been doing for way longer than we have.
it's long and heated debate of QA people if they should or not learn development. Most of the time, I say yes. Absolutely. You'll get a benefit. You'll be able to test better your software. You'll be better to create better automations or analyze. You have a programmatic mindset to apply to what you're testing. Yeah, there are benefits everywhere. Admitted, there are exploratory tests, some things that are more, as you very well mentioned earlier, on the human side, that maybe you need to be as far as possible from a developer mindset, because that may interfere with your critical analysis of QA wise of the application. But most of the times, most of the us, the people involved in this software quality and good performing, will get a huge benefit into learning something from our developers. There's this one of these investors guys that I follow, Charlie Munger, has this Lulapalooza effect, where the more you know, the more perspectives and more analysis you have to a single situation. You are not like a horse just not being able to look sideways. You have a wider perspective and capacity to help. I mean, if you know development, you may turn into a developer eventually, or go back and forth and say like, hey, just think it from the job safety perspective. You know more, you're more employable. I don't know.
James is saying he thinks continuous performance can be a place where we can add the most value right now, however you feel about or define that term. This is one of the reasons why I stopped consulting, honestly, because what I wanted to do was like set up processes and make it so that, the people would already be thinking of quality and performance even earlier in the cycle and even when I wasn't there. But the reality was people just wanted me to get in there, script, run, get rudimentary results about an application I don't really know much about, and then that's it. So it was so demoralizing to be reduced to doing that low level stuff that I know doesn't add as much value as I could be adding, but it's still not that common that companies say, well, look, it's okay if it takes a little bit of time, but just get us set up for the long term. No, most of it's like short term stuff, right? Yeah, sorry. James is like, sorry to trigger your PTSD. Yep,
I want to
definitely.
get shaped and informed right away.
Brian is saying as well,
Yeah,
learning
no,
from
I
developers.
think we all
Oh,
have
sorry.
our war.
Sorry, this is a bit of lag.
No, no, go on, go on. I was
Oh,
also ranting.
I was
Oh,
gonna say Brian says learning
boy,
from
I think I have some
developers is great.
connectivity.
I
Yeah,
still remember the day a
go
developer
on.
sat me down and covered the ins and outs of garbage collection. I totally agree because when I joined K6, I'm not a developer. I can code, but I don't consider myself a developer, and I was certainly new to Go. And Go is the language that K6 is built on. And so my first few days I was asking like why exactly was Go the language that was chosen? Because it was very intentional. A lot of times that's tools get built in a language because that's the language that the existing developers use. It wasn't like that for K6. Go was selected because it is more performant. And I had to have one of our developers sit down and tell me all about, threads and how Go has Go routines and concurrency and why it's as a language more efficient. There's so much that we could learn from that. Garbage collection's a great idea.
It is something like that I was mentioning earlier today. One of the first things that I had to face off when I was doing this was this memory allocation. And some of my coworkers that did not have a developer background like I did were like, memory, what? Is that a problem? Just focus on the script and finish it. And I mean, we all have those war scars, how call it, that definitely marked us. And it's like, why are any of you paying attention to this? Or like the number of connections to the database that are happening? Why? Does it matter? I mean, you just pull the information from the database. Yeah, but you're taking out one record at a time. That's a big issue. I won't script this. I already can tell you there's going to be problems there. But you haven't even tested it. How to put it? And but how are you gonna find it without an automation? Um, yeah, how don't you
They
know
weren't
that?
going to.
Yeah, yeah. There was some benefits that even like when you're a child and you put your hand in the stove and it's hot, you never do it again. There are some of those things that, as a developer or with some mindset from a developer, you'll be able to tell right there and then, like, hey, this may become an issue. We haven't even created. We are at the planning meeting, at the feature request with the customer, with the end user. Hey, I need this page that in the initial load. Um, Examples from our friend James Pulley is going to bring up like high res images in the first screen and 10 videos and do that in just in the landing page. You're going to have issues there. We have not created it, but maybe we could do it a different way. So
Yeah.
some of those understandings are critical, are crucial, and I would encourage everyone, get out of the comfort zone. It's not just scripting, and soon will be very little about scripting. And the performance universe is huge. It goes for billions and billions of kilometers and light years.
Another message from James: a good approach for any performance engineers to become an expert in things that others want to avoid. Garbage collection is definitely a good one. Kubernetes stability is another. Yeah, I will not say I'm a Kubernetes expert. I'm still a Kubernetes noob, but I have been learning it. And one thing that I can already see is that now that I've understood more about how it works, why would I want to do black box testing and test the end result when I can look at a YAML file and see, hey, you're not setting resource limits. Maybe we should do that before we run a load test. That just saves time, and effort. If I have the experience to be able to look at a configuration file, I mean, that's the benefit of it. Oh, a good question. What's your favorite thing about K6 so far?
Okay. One thing that it caught my attention right away. And I have to admit, when I first met Pepe and started to talk to him about this, I told him, hey, but I see it complicated to have a long set of steps. If I have an end to end test with 50 steps that I have to do billions of correlations and I have to, I don't see K6 there, and that won't fill my need. And on those days, I wasn't that used to talking about Agile. I was too much into the waterfall days, this end to end. And now that I understand better and I see where the industry is moving towards and where should QA people be moving towards, I love that K6 is easier. If you just want to do a quick service automation, put a few lines of code, you are triggering it, you're validating, and it's so transparent and easy. When you think it from a code perspective, clack, 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 you typed a few commands, there you have it, and you can integrate it into your continuous, and it's there. Yeah, in I would say in less than a minute, you can create a quick automation that you can push into your Git repository, and it's there for posterity. Your teams, everyone will get a benefit of it. And even you yourself, if you need to run it quickly for that thing that you just wrote, created, or coded, you complete the loop there. So it's, I think that is one of the main things that I liked about K6, and that with almost the same command, it's the same if you run it in your local computer, or for some reason I need to test it from different locations or in the cloud or blah, blah, blah. You just change a little thing in the command. It's out there in the world and ready to be run when you need it. So I think those are the elements that I was like, wow, I like it.
We're a little bit over time here, but I wanted to answer this question too. My favorite thing about K6 the tool is being on this side. I see the amount of thought and the deliberation and testing that goes into a feature. It's not I see that it's not all about like, let's cram it full of every possible feature so that it ticks every single box that we can think of. It's like, well, no, let's put it as an extension so that K6 remains light, the binary itself remains light and performant. You know, we have engineers that are constantly looking through the included libraries to see, well, maybe do we really need this one? And I just think that that's a foundational thing, that the thing that you're using to measure performance should also be performant. And yet most of us don't do that with other tools. We don't think to test the test tool. So I guess it's about the tool, but it's also about the company, because K6 is a team. Almost all of us are engineers in some way, not the same experience, but we're engineers and we are building something that we would use ourselves. And I'm hoping that we continue to have that culture as we grow, because we are growing pretty rapidly. And I also want to, on that note, I want to
Speaking of,
say we're hiring. You're going to see a few more new faces here in the next few weeks, because we're growing pretty aggressively, but not so aggressively that we don't still only want people that are cool to work with. But if you think you're cool or know someone who is, check out the jobs that are available and like check back, because there's so many positions that are going to be opened up in the next few weeks or in the next few days even. And it's a great place to be.
I highly recommend it.
Thank you, Leandro, for joining us. Everybody has been congratulating you, but I think we're the ones that need congratulation, because we're very, very happy to be working with you, to have you as part of the K6 team, and me especially.
You're gonna make me cry. No, I'm
Oh,
incredibly thankful. I'm super, super happy. I'm thrilled. And of course, so many awesome things are gonna come from this. So get ready, and we'll see each other soon.
yes. Check out also Leandro's blog post on joining K6, and his post on his book, The Hitchhiking Guide to Load Testing Projects. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a great weekend.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Gracias.
Adios.
Adios.